Hi, everyone. I'm Beverly Bond, founder of Black Girls Rock, and I'm so excited to be here to bring you another episode of the BGR Book Club in partnership with Microsoft. The BGR Book Club is designed to build and promote community, empowerment, literacy, and leadership. And each month, we select a new, inspirational, thought provoking book for our BGR community to read and to discuss. And today, we will be discussing a book by best-selling and award-winning author Minda Harts, author of The Memo, Right Within, and her third book that we'll be discussing today, You Are More Than Magic. Minda is a professor at NYU. She is also a highly sought after speaker who's been featured on MSNBC, ABC News, Forbes, Fast Company, Time Magazine, and more. In 2020, she was named the top voice for equity in the workplace by LinkedIn. She also hosts a live weekly podcast called Secure the Seat. Minda will be interviewed today by BGR alum Mawiyah Knight, who is a British-based poet, spoken word enthusiast, and BGR alumna. Mawiyah began her journey into poetry several years ago after attending BGR. She's been a part of our Black Girl Lead program for so many years now, and we're so proud of her. Since then, she's taken part in several Roundhouse Young Creative projects in the UK. She's a graduate of Oxford University with a creative writing degree, and she went on to study her master's in creative writing and publishing at the University of Lincoln. Mawiyah has a keen interest in screenwriting, and she is currently working on her first anthology of poems, and I couldn't be more proud. So welcome, Minda. Welcome, Mawiyah.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you so much.
Excited to have you and excited for this conversation today. I'm going to ease my way on out of it and let you guys go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Beverly. That was really special for me to hear, actually. Okay, so Minda Harts, I'm so happy to be here just moderating this book club with you. This is actually a real joy, a real honor. I've spent the past couple weeks reading your book, just studying it and just loving every second of it. So I want to start by firstly reading an excerpt that I've picked out here, and then getting into some questions with you, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay, so this is an excerpt from chapter 2, More Than Magic, under the section titled, You Have Access Already. So here we go. Self-advocacy is a tool we all have access to. You just have to decide if you want to use it. One of my favorite poets, Audre Lorde, said, "Beware of feeling like you're not good enough to deserve it. You always deserve for someone to hear you out. They won't always agree with you, but you deserve their respect. And that means having your voice heard. And the sooner you understand that, the easier self-advocacy will become." Self-advocacy doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself. My parents always helped me make sure I was on the right path and thinking through my next steps. Yes, I was the one advocating, but I always had the support of my family. So I didn't feel like I was alone when I asked for what I needed. And hopefully, you have some people in your life that you can lean on when you are nervous and need some additional support. The next time you think about standing up for yourself, remember these 5 steps along the way. Center your narrative around honesty and your need to be heard. Remind yourself that you aren't complaining and you aren't nagging. You are initiating a healthy dialogue and advocating for a solution that is based on your needs. Check in with yourself. This is important. You have to ask yourself the tough questions, like, does this situation require me to step into my courage, or should I lay low? Never base your advocacy around what others think is a big deal or not. Only you can make that call for you. We will talk more about this later in the book, so keep reading. Okay, that's just a section from chapter 2, More Than Magic. Beautiful work, beautiful writing. Really, really important. So everything that I gleaned from this book told me that this has been sitting with you for quite some time. And it's really, really special that it came about this way. Toni Morrison, who I know is one of your faves, one of your idols, also once said that if there's a book you wish to read but it does not exist yet, then you must write it. And this feels like what it was. This is what this labor of love was for you. So how did it start for you?
Oh, wow. Again, such an honor to be in conversation with you and here with the Black Girls Rock community and Microsoft. Thank you so much. I need to have you on every talk I do, Mawiyah, because hearing you read my words sounds so much more beautiful. So thank you. But yes, absolutely. I've had this book inside my heart for a very long time. And Ms. Morrison did tell us, write the book we want to read. And I started to think about, what did the 15-year-old me need to hear? What did the 14-year-old me need to hear? What did the 21-year-old me need to hear? Right. And there were so many times in my teenage years and junior high and high school and even college where I felt like my voice was being silenced, or that I should just be happy to be here, happy to have a seat. And what I realized was, being happy to be here or grateful to be here is not on the description. It's not on the application, right? I am the asset. And if there's something that I need, then it's up to me. The only part of this equation that I can solve is if I am articulating my value and asking for what I want. And so I really wanted to be able to shine a light on the voices of Black and brown girls, because they have one now and nobody should be silencing them. We should be cultivating and encouraging them to use their voices in home, at school, and at work. And so sometimes we just need to know and have the tools to be able to do that. And so I really wanted to have a conversation with our girls as if we're having a slumber party, right? Eating our favorite snacks, to say, let's talk about some of these things, and don't let anybody tell you that your voice doesn't matter, because I think as Black and brown girls, sometimes we go through this life thinking that we have to shrink, and I want us to take up space.
Yeah. I love that's where it stems from for you. It's truly, truly important that we assert ourselves in that narrative. And that particular section that I just read from, you speak a lot on self-advocacy and how vital it is, as we just move through every space, every institution. And how we assert ourselves in that beyond something abstract like magic. So what does it mean to cement yourself in your individualized power and agency rather than the abstract of magic? Because I feel like as Black women, we lean a lot on that concept.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because, it's cute. Black girl magic. It's helped many of us get through the day, right? But at the end of it, it wasn't magic that got us to our destination. It wasn't magic that got us into that school or that college or that job. It was hard work and determination. It was self-advocacy, right? It was staying up late, finishing the papers. It took grit. And so I want us to go through life with this notion that it was luck, right? That we were like Dorothy down the yellow brick road, just clicking our feet, and all of a sudden, we had everything we needed. No, we had to work for it. And so I want us and communities to put some respect on our work, on our names, right? And it's so important that no one's going to do that if we don't do that for ourselves first, right? And I was really, really intentional about writing a book to say, we no longer have to see ourselves through the eyes of someone else. What would it look like if we see ourselves as who we need to be in these spaces, in school, at work, et cetera? And don't let anybody boil down our accomplishments to magic, right? We've worked too hard to lean into magic. And in order for us to get to the next destination, the next rung on the ladder, it takes work. And so I want to be able to, magic is fun and fine, but it's so much more than that. And we are so much more than that.
Yeah, that's really great to hear you say, because I feel as though we do lean on that oftentimes. Like we love these phrases like Black girl magic, and it means a lot to us because oftentimes we are kind of everything we do is made out to be something so inherent, but it's so intentional and at times exhausting, and it's definitely deserved of that respect, of that clarity, of the effort, of the work that we put in, day out. As I'm speaking.
Yes. Absolutely. The only magic I want is if I can't figure out how to get self-care, Mawiyah. So if somebody can send me some magic on how to do that, but everything else, it took way more than that to get to where we are right now.
Really, you need some help just taking care of yourself sometimes. Just
sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I feel you. As Black women, we do that to ourselves. Oftentimes, we just constantly pushing forward, just try to dismantle this system, try to take care of ourselves, our family. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But you know, we do it gracefully.
We do.
Right. So moving slightly forward, pushing on here, that kind of makes me just think of and think about our resilience and how every day we kind of decide to live in that concept of resilience rather than kind of like breaking down off. But I mean, oftentimes we do, and we should allow ourselves that space to kind of break down, feel sad, feel hurt, and things like that. But resilience is still something we definitely need to prioritize in our spaces. Otherwise, it all kinds of shatters. You know, the world doesn't always allow you to have those times of just feeling depleted. And another section in your book, moving on through to chapter 3, which I want to read from now, just a second excerpt here. Chapter 3, Don't Stop, Get It. There's a section titled Resilience. I'll just read a small section from it here. And go on to ask you some more questions. So here we go. Unfortunately, the word no will follow you out of your teenage years and into the rest of your life. From the job you don't get a call back from, to the college that doesn't admit you, to going through your first breakup, you will always have those no experiences. But it's the lessons you learn from them and the way you choose to grow through them that count. When I didn't make the cheerleading squad, I had two choices: to become bitter or to move forward. You will be faced with the same choices someday. I began to use those no's to flex my resilience muscle. In my opinion, life is a series of adjustments to situations that don't always go your way. The adjustment might be uncomfortable, the change might even cause you pain, but you can withstand the shock because you were built for so many more yeses. In other words, no's come, but you don't have to constantly continue to play them on loop. You can choose to be resilient and move forward. When I started my company, the Memo LLC, I set out to help other women of color feel seen in the workplace. The feeling of wanting to be seen and chosen doesn't go away when you become an adult. I created the Memo LLC to serve as an advocate to help women of color see their worth in the workplace so we can be promoted and get paid equally. One of my company's core values is resilience. Being resilient isn't something that just happens to us overnight. Being resilient is a muscle that we have to learn to strengthen and flex every day of our lives. And the sooner you understand how to dust yourself off and try again, the better off you'll be later down the line. It took time for me to understand how to be resilient, but I made resilience part of my everyday life. In other words, resilience isn't a one-time event. it's the lifestyle. So even though I didn't make the cheerleading team, I didn't give up on myself. I still believed that I had a role to play somewhere and goals to achieve. Wow. My heart still hurts for you that you didn't make the cheerleading team.
Mine too, a little bit.
But, you know, you pulled a great lesson out of it, a really, really important lesson. And, you know, through resilience and through facing no's and these hurdles that we face in life, I think we also learn a great lesson of vulnerability, and you show it all throughout your book, just so telling and honest and true about your experiences. So I just want to ask you, like, what was the experience of being vulnerable in this context, and was it empowering for you?
Yeah, thank you for that. I really wanted to shed anything that would prevent the reader from leaning into the conversation with me, right? You know, I invite the reader to take a journey with me by reading You Are More Than Magic. And I couldn't ask them to be vulnerable and answer questions if I wasn't willing to do that myself, right? So I had to go back and be willing to share some of the pain that I experienced, some of the no's, like not getting a yes for the cheerleading team. In that same year, I got a no for the basketball team, right? Those no's can be very damaging to us because sometimes as teenagers, and let's be honest, as adults, we tie a no to our self-worth, right? Oh, they didn't choose me. Oh, they said no, so it must be me. What can I do more? And that's a very negative way of thinking, and it leads to imposter syndrome. And so I really wanted to lean into those feelings and emotions that many of us experience as a teenager and say, hey, I've been there. I know how that feels, but that doesn't have to be where our story ends. It's just the beginning, right? And that's where that resilience muscle, in the same chapter that you read, Mawiyah, I talk about getting those no's, but then eventually I went after an opportunity for student council and I got the yes. Right. And it was actually a better fit for me later on, but I didn't know that until I went after it. But that resiliency, I didn't stop my show because someone else didn't see my value or that someone else didn't see that. And so I just know that there's such a strong desire to be liked, to be chosen at that age. And our worth isn't tied to being chosen or not. Our worth can be and should be solely dictated by us filling ourselves up and affirming ourselves and knowing that it might be no now, it might be no forever, but that doesn't mean that my life has to end, or it doesn't mean that there's not a better yes around the corner. And I just wanted to share that because I think sometimes people see where we are right now and they don't realize what happened an hour ahead. Right? that resilience muscle still has to be flexed no matter what.
Right. You are absolutely right. And I think as Black women, as brown women, we hold so much fear over failure. We hold so much fear about it. So feeling like resilient towards any hurdles or downfalls, that's like something we can't. Sometimes we don't even get to that stage because we're stuck. Don't I know it? And sometimes a lot of that, like especially when we're moving through industry and through institutions and our education and our career, a lot of that is being one of the only women of color in the space. And one of your kind of helpful mantras, you do say, my racial identity belongs to me, and no one can stop my progress because I control my destiny. That was really, really special for me to hear you say, because I think a lot of the times, a lot of people will kind of downplay your experience as a minority in a space. And what we're seeing and holding on to as Black women is it's downplayed oftentimes, and making it a part of our experience, making it something that's actually very significant and plays a huge role in how we do things, and even the fear we hold on to because we oftentimes don't want to speak up in spaces. It's so serious, it's so real. So to hear you say that, it reminds me that it's okay for me to constantly be considering the fact that I'm a Black woman, and I'm scared. But I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because I think part of it, going back to this idea that we have to be strong for everybody, the trope that many have probably heard, the strong Black woman, right? But many of us have been conditioned to be strong for everybody else but ourselves. And part of me being vulnerable in You're More Than Magic was saying that vulnerability is also a strength. And I wanted our young girls to know that it's okay to be vulnerable, right? They don't have to be strong in the sense of never let people see you sweat, never tell people what you need, because that only hurts us in the end, because people never know what good looks like to us. They don't know what the boundaries are, because we sometimes don't want to say it because we don't want to rock the boat or, cause trouble. But us showing up as our full self is not rocking the boat. It should be normalized.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, I think it's so special the way you show care and so much relatability in this book. And I guess that, leads us back to why representation matters, and just you shine light on so many nuances of being a Black woman in education, in a professional space. I think that's really, really special and empowering for me and for so many others. Um, I want to go forward and just ask you, why do you feature questions all throughout your book? You kind of prompt the readers to consider the themes of what you're talking about as you talk about them. Why did you do that? Is that a method of inspiring forward thinking and just keeping us on track with everything that you're teaching?
Yeah, thank you for that. I was very intentional about every piece of You Are More Than Magic, and I'm glad that you found it relatable, because I was like, am I too old to be writing to young adults? I like to think I'm cool, but can I still be cool enough to have these conversations? But it was important for me to have those periods of reflection, because I might talk about the imposter syndrome I experienced as a teenager, or I might talk about a bad friend breakup, but I also want the reader to be able to think about their situation, right? Is there a friend that maybe they need to be having conversations with, or maybe parting ways with, right? And I want them not to just read my story, but think about their own experiences, those difficult conversations that we all have to learn to have. Who in their lives can they think about where it's easier to have conversations with than others, or how they think through, should I be having this conversation now when my parent or guardian walks through the door, or should I wait till they settle in for an hour or two before I bring this to their attention? I really wanted them to think about the steps that they take, not reading the book, but I want it to be active and tangible in their life. And all the books that I write, I'm very practical in terms of how can you use this book when you're done, when you finish a chapter, how can you activate this in your life? And I didn't want them to read it and then just put it on the shelf, or, close the Audible. I wanted them to actually continue to think about and process some of the things that they're experiencing, to remind them that their experiences matter.
That's really great. I think that's what the questions definitely prompted me to do. It's a great reminder of the purpose of this book, because I mean, oftentimes, there's so much information out there, and there are a lot of great thinkers in the Black community and in female-led spaces and everything, and there's a lot to take in at times. But this book was a great way of helping me pause to understand exactly what I meant to be considering as you talk about it with all your helpful tidbits and stories. And I will say that you definitely are cool and hip, and you give me great, wonderful, youthful energy. So don't worry about that.
Okay, I'm holding on to that. I'm be like Mawiyah said, I'm forever young. I'm forever young. All right, thank you. That means a lot.
Amazing. I wanna go on to read another excerpt from your beautiful work here. In chapter 4. What about your friends? Because we were talking about who this book is for, and kind of also how it brings us all together and why we're all here discussing it on BGR Book Club. So it makes me think of community. It makes me think of sisterhood. So in your chapter here, what about your friends? You go on to say, when I look back on some of my best moments from my teenage years, most of those moments happened because I established some amazing friendships along the way. When I got my driver's license, the first place I drove to was to pick up my best friend, Mara. We drove around our small town for several hours, just driving and laughing at inside jokes. I'm pretty sure we drove in and out of the McDonald's parking lot at least 20 times. There was no one at the time in my life that I would have wanted to drive around all day with more than her. When I was in high school, I thought I would never find another friend that understood me as well as Mara did. But when I got to college, I met some new friends, and they later became more like sisters. A good friendship is like a good bowl of soup, nourishing and so comforting. Even as I was learning to build good relationships with my friends, I was also learning that sometimes you will have to let friendships go when they no longer serve you or align with your values. I don't know how this next chapter will come off to you, but since you made it to chapter 4, I feel like we are pretty much family at this point. And I will always commit to keeping it 100% real with you. So here it is. I wish someone had told me about the importance of finding and maintaining healthy friendships when I was younger. Having healthy friendships is not just about finding your BFF, nor is it just about who wants you to sit at their table during your lunch hour or whether people think you are popular or not. If I'd had someone like a big sister to tell me the importance of having healthy friendships with other girls and with other people in general, I would have made some better friend choices along the way. Mara and my sister friends from college are all amazing, but I wasted time with others who weren't worth it. When you're young, no one talks about what it takes to build and maintain good friendships. They just tell you to make friends. Nor do folks provide you with a roadmap for when you might have to let some friendships go. But the reality is, some friends will be in your life for a season, reason, or lifetime. You just need to know who fits in which bucket. Well, that's a really, really good point to make, especially as Black women, as minorities. I think that's where it really centers us as minorities, because sometimes you live in your household and you have your circle of a family of friends who look like you, and then you land in an office where you're the only Black girl, or you land in a class where you're the only Black or brown girl, and then you realize, I need community. So, and I mean that often starts with friendship, when we leave our households. Um, so I guess I just want to ask you, what does community and connectivity mean to you?
Yeah, it's everything. It's every single thing. I often say that success is not a solo sport, and I'm only where I am because of community. Right? I wish I would have had a community like Black Girls Rock when I was a young Black girl, because I was in a lot of spaces where I was the only, and that representation is so important. And just knowing that you can, I write in the book about a group of friends that I had for a short period of time at school, some Black girls, and we used to wear our Black girl braids together, and we'd be click clacking like Venus and Serena down the hallways, you know, and it felt so good that I didn't have to explain why I have beads in my hair or any of those things, that I could just be. And sometimes we just need a space where we can, a soft place to land, right? A soft place to land so that we can just be loved on and talk about the things and the unique experiences that we have. And so the work that I do is so important to me, because sometimes we feel like we're alone, and we don't have to be. But I think part of that too is I meet a lot of adult women who will say to me, Mawiyah, oh, I don't do well with making friends with women, or I don't have women friends. And that always makes me sad, because there must have been something that happened in their life that they had a bad experience, right? And they didn't give the opportunity to meet some healthy friends along the way. And we need our sister friends. I mean, I think about during the height of the pandemic, what really got me through was the group chat, right? The people in my circle, you know, where we could talk about some things. And so I really wanted to talk about friendship, because I think it's even more important than, you know, the romantic relationships that we might have, because the people that we, our squad, the people we align ourselves with, are people that pour into us, or people who might cut us down, right? And we don't want people like that in our circles. And so I really wanted to talk about what it's like to build healthy friendships with women, men, anyone who identifies as human, right? What that looks like, and when it's time to let it go, right? I talk about some painful experiences with friends that I just wanted to like me, but they were not good for me. And I think sometimes, again, that need to be liked and have someone to hang out with will sometimes trump our values. And I don't want that to be the case. I want girls to know that they can build healthy relationships, quality over quantity.
That is so vital. That is so important. I know in my experience, being a Black girl from this cold, rainy England, it was so important for me to land in America that day and go to BGR as a participant when I was 15, and to be in that space, to be in that room, in that program with all girls who look like me, or not necessarily look like me, because obviously as Black women we come in many shades, all that stuff, but just to be in a room of Black women who shared certain experiences and ideas, and I felt so seen. And it taught me so much about sisterhood and community and connectivity and culture, and the significance of it, and language, and how to articulate myself in certain situations when being a Black woman was hard. When being a young Black girl became hard, my sisters helped me. So it's really, really important that you took the time in your book to talk about that. Because I mean, as practical and helpful as your book is, because I mean, you're a very intelligent, professional woman, you also took the time to say, hey, you need to have friends, you need to have support, you need to take time out with them, you need people who can joke the same with you, who can just be with you. That's really, really special. And you go on to say in this chapter, you go on to talk about and discuss how that kind of feeds into mentorship, finding a mentor, finding somebody who you can kind of explain and give your goals, your dreams to, and they can help you in a really mindful way. How does mentorship impact you and your experiences today?
Yeah, thank you for that. Mentorship is important. Again, our success is not a solo sport. If you look at anybody that you might, idolize, or that's role model, they didn't get there by themselves, right? They had people who gave them good advice, who supported them, who spoke their names in the rooms that they weren't in. And right now, you probably have so many mentors that you don't even know, like people that give you advice, your parent, your guardian, siblings, coaches, teachers. And it's important that we continue to build those relationships with people we trust. In my teenage years, it was a woman named Tiffany. She was a local business owner in her mid 20s. And I was like, wow, I want to be like this woman when I grow up. She had the nice car, the nice home, and those sorts of things. And I'm like, whatever she's doing, I need to figure out what's going on. So I ended up reaching out to her and just saying, hey, loving what you're doing. I ended up working for her for a period of time, and I learned so much from her. But the important thing was, it wasn't just she poured in information to me when I was a teenager, but I continued to build that relationship with her as I became an adult. Right. And I think when you're thinking about your network, there's going to be people that you're friends with right now that when you get to college or you move on to your career, that you can tap back into them. Right. You can be a resource for them and they can be a resource for you. And I think it's really important that we have people that we can touch base. I think about when I was younger, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And so building a network of people who had gone to college was important so that I could ask those questions that, my family might not be able to provide answers to. Right. And I didn't have to feel like shame around that because I had a community of people that I could tap into. And I think it's so important for our young adults and our more seasoned adults to be able to have a group of people that they can lean on when they need that support and advice. It might be, how do I dress for an interview? What do I say on this college application? Just having people you can ask those questions to is so important. And if you don't have those people, utilize us, follow us online, listen to podcasts. You don't have to have mentors that personally, but there's so much access out there. But make sure you have people that think differently, maybe even than you do, that are diverse. You don't have to have mentors that are just Black women or brown women. They can be Black men, they can be non-binary, they can be a lot of different things. And the more diverse my mentorship circle is, the more rich it is for me.
That's amazing. It makes me think about and consider the fact that when we find ourselves as Black or brown women in spaces where we're the only ones, we're the minority, we do kind of gravitate towards the first Black girl that we see when we can, and that's how we. I suppose a part of it is having it be a coping mechanism for us, but we do that. We gravitate towards each other in spaces, which is also a beautiful thing. When I think about it practically, in the way this book encourages me to do, I wonder, how do we champion the other Black and brown women that we find in those spaces in our respective fields? How do you suggest we go about that?
Yeah, I think that the internet is so awesome. I think definitely having communities like Black Girls Rock, look at your industry and see what trade organizations, LinkedIn, there's so many opportunities for us to connect with like minds. I think about before I became, or as I was becoming an author, before I put out my first book, I utilized platforms like LinkedIn. I went to writing groups to connect with other authors and writers, right? That I didn't have to go at some of this stuff alone, that I didn't have to learn the hard way because there were people who had already blazed trails and done it that way. And I think sometimes as Black and brown girls and women, we think that we have to do everything ourselves, right? That we don't need to ask for any help, that we don't need anybody. But that's part of our healing and our health, is having people we can depend on, that we don't have to be all things to everybody, but never have people be those things to us, right? So and the other part of it, going back to self-advocacy, which we talked about earlier, is letting people know what you need, right? People can't help you if they don't know how to support you. And I think sometimes we sit and wait for someone to tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, we got this opportunity for you. Or you see someone else gets it and you're like, I wonder why they didn't think of me. It was because we didn't articulate that we needed that or wanted that, right? So we have to put ourselves in these spaces so that people think of us and know how to support us.
Mawiyah, I know you can't see the chat, but I did want to bring a person in the audience is asking a question, Minda. She's a member of the National Book Club. Go on, girl. She says, do you plan on writing something to help those older women that need help? Or do you recommend this for them? Because I have some sisters that are stuck or lost.
Yes, thank you for that, Beverly, and thank you for that question. Actually, I have two books out for adults. This is my first young adult book, so I tend to write for the more adult woman. But the book, The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table, I would definitely recommend that book. But I also think that You Are More Than Magic is a good book for adults too. I think there's some practical and tangible tips inside of there that will help you move forward and think through. So I would suggest You Are More Than Magic and definitely The Memo.
Oh, sure. Yes. Hi. So I'm going to jump back in here because I think we're going to go to workshop. I do agree that this book, and I have not read it yet, but just thinking in the conversation, I'm listening to you guys talk, and I'm saying to myself, wow, this is a companion to Black Girls Lead, right? It's like everything that we try to instill in our girls is everything that you've talked about. So I'm excited about the book, and I'm excited for our young adult readers to listen. But I also listened to you talked about, the imposter syndrome and some of those things that we go through as young adults linger on in our adult life. Similar to the last person's question, some of those things we can't really shake. So I think that having conversations around the resilience and how we define our magic, not just being something that just magically happens for us, but it's the work that we put in, it's the resilience that we have to go through, it's the perseverance. So I think it's an incredible and I can't wait to read this book, and of course I'm going to also read the other books. One, I want to, before we go into the Q&A with the audience, I'd like for you, Minda, to tell us where people can purchase the book.
Yes, thank you, Beverly. You can purchase it wherever you like to buy your books. So Black-owned bookstores, women-owned bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Target, anywhere you like to buy your favorite books.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I think we are going to go into Q&A with the audience. I'm not looking at my run of show. Sorry, people. Sometimes we have to wing it. Anyone guide me, guide me. Well, I'm gonna, okay. So I think we're looking for questions in the Q&A. If we don't have any, then I'll wrap. All right, I see them coming through. In the meantime, I do want to thank our partners again at Microsoft for helping us put this together, our production team, our tech teams, our ASL interpreters, and of course the authors and our alum who helped to make this possible, because teamwork makes the dream work. Okay, we are going straight to workshop. I believe, Mawiyah, are you leading workshop?
I can, yeah. I believe I am. I'm going to be reading some of the prompts that come up on our next slide, I believe.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to you.
Amazing. Okay. So we are going to be led into our workshop. So I'm just going to start by saying, as we kind of just lead into things, in chapter 5 of Minda Harts' book, You Are More Than Magic, The Black and Brown Girl's Guide to Finding Your Voice, Minda discusses her early work experiences. She learned early how important integrity built on solid values is in the workplace. She learned that also necessary for success is knowing who you want to be and what you like doing. We are going to go through a series of questions. And I'm going to leave you with this quote by Minda herself. Only you can decide what the right answers are for you. Not me, not your family or friends, just you. This is a part of self-advocacy. You can better advocate for yourself when you know what your why is and what you want. So, leading you on to this workshop piece, I'm just going to ask a couple questions. Hopefully, we will have some audience participation. So we encourage you to think of answers and write them down and share them with your neighbor or share in our live event Q&A. And hopefully either Minda or Beverly will be reading whatever you guys submit in the Q&A chat. But we can start off with the questions. Who do you want to be? What do you like doing?
Yeah, Mawiyah, I think that those are two great questions to ask ourselves because in You Are More Than Magic, I write about the jobs that I had as a teenager. I was a grocery store bagger. I worked in customer service. I did a lot. I worked at Dairy Queen serving ice creams and writing horrible happy birthday messages on cakes for people. It was, I did that. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we good at? What do we like doing so that we can narrow in on things that we want to do? If you don't like, for me, I didn't like handling the money. Now I like spending money, but I didn't like having to count it back at the cash register, right? So I would steer away from jobs that would have me doing that because I knew I wouldn't be able to bring my best self to the job and I wouldn't enjoy it. And so I think there's certain things that we're doing right now. Do you like working in groups? Do you like assignments where you don't have to rely on anyone else? Understanding some of those things about ourselves are so important now. And it helps us think through what careers and jobs we might have or assignments that we might want to take on.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. I feel like if we move intentionally in the way we execute our goals and objectives, that's like best how we feed into ourselves and we don't end up unhappy essentially. So I think it's really, really great that you're trying to instill this in young women.
I agree. I think that for me, music is what I love. And I think I've really shaped everything that I've done around music, even Black Girls Rock. Like Michaela Angela Davis always says, I created Black Girls Rock the same way that I DJ, right? She's like, you take genres and generations and you mix it together and you take us on a journey. So I think that that's true, like tapping into those passions. But it really started for me with that's what I like doing. I love music. I like listening. I love dancing. I love reading album covers. Some of you youngins, Mawiyah, don't know what albums are, but they're like these square things that we used to have that had like round records, vinyl records in them. Yeah, ask someone older in your family. You'll learn. But I think those are good starting points to kind of figure out your journey. Like, how do you stay tapped into those things that move you, that you're passionate about?
That's beautiful. It kind of makes me consider a next question we have on the slide here, but everything that I feel has been said so far feeds into that, but it's what makes you come alive. I can tell that Beverly comes alive when she talks about it. It's honestly the cutest thing. But that's so true. I feel that I see your passion for this book and inspiring your community, Minda, and that makes you come alive. And I suppose for me, it's poetry and just creative writing in general, especially screenwriting, that kind of thing, and it brings me so much joy. I suppose that's a great segue onto the next question, which is, what frustrates you the most? Which is a question I love because I think we should always be talking about what frustrates us as Black women because we deserve it.
Absolutely. I think these are questions that we should definitely ask ourselves because when I worked at the Dairy Queen as a teenager, I didn't realize that handling the money was kind of frustrating to me. It gave me anxiety. And once I started to kind of tap into that, I realized the next job that I took, when they kept trying to train me on the cashier, I was like, no, thank you. I know that that is not a space that I want to be in. And I had to learn how to advocate for myself to say, no, I actually really enjoy working with the customers. And so however I can be more customer focused, that's what, outside of the money handling, that's what I'd like to do. And I think understanding what we love, like Beverly said, music, and so maybe for me, I get frustrated when I'm not working in a space where I'm seen and heard. Right? They just hire me, and I'm just there just to take up space, but they don't want to hear my voice. That frustrates me. So when I think about the places that I want to go, I want to be celebrated, not tolerated. And so that frustrates me when I'm in a space where I'm not being seen and valued as a Black woman. And so I think as early adults, we know what those feelings are. Your emotions matter. And I think tuning in and honoring those will help you as you think through what you want to do later in your life.
Wow. That really speaks to me. Because what you just said reminded me of something else Toni Morrison said. She said, be fearful of industry. They diversify, they don't empower. And that is kind of seems like the basis of what your frustration is at times. So I think it's really something to be mindful of. That's really lovely. We're always are we looking for questions in the chat at any point?
Yeah, I don't see any in the chat right now. But I do agree, those kinds of things are frustrating. And I think also, I think maybe I'm a little hard on myself sometimes, but I feel like my frustrations happen when I don't meet my own goals. Like when I don't meet what I say I'm going to do. That kind of gets me frustrated. So which is good and bad. I mean, I think sometimes you have to like give yourself some grace, and then sometimes it's like it keeps you in check, and it also doesn't allow other people to decide for you your emotion. You know what I mean? Your frustration. So yeah, that. But I also feel the same way when people don't value what you bring to the room, especially as Black women. Watching, in entertainment industry that I'm in, you definitely notice the barriers. That's why I started Black Girls Rock. To help alleviate some of those blockers to our success. So yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mawiyah.
No. I was just going to say that I love this conversation. I love what this is becoming. Just kind of being a sounding board for each other, and just as we move through these questions. I think talking about our frustrations is important, and a major one for me, as just circling back to the concept of imposter syndrome. Something we kind of persistently face as Black women, especially when we're younger. Not that it necessarily goes away. We don't expect it to. But for me, it's kind of what imposter syndrome is rooted in that frustrates me. Because I'm always mindful of the fact that it's rooted in very real systemic issues that kind of place us in this position of being excluded, of being stereotyped, and that's where it stems from. And then the onus is then put on us to do away with it, to empower ourselves, to push forward, fight on. And it's important that we do that, because if we don't look out for ourselves, then who will? But I suppose that's what frustrates me. And to sum that up, it sounds like I'm just frustrated with the world, right? But
No, not at all. I'm a very proud mentor moment here watching you, Mawiyah. Um, Mawiyah, when she first came to Black Girls Rock um, from London, she probably was one of the most extremely introverted people that has ever come through our doors. And it was clear that the work that we were doing, which is very much what you're talking about in the book, Minda, was important to for all of them, but specifically for her, and to watch her kind of grow into this glowing young woman that I'm watching right now. I'm just so honored to have had a part of being able to help you grow into the person that I'm seeing before me. And I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so excited about, it brings me back to the book, because just listening to everything that you guys were talking about in the excerpts that you read, it really does feel like a companion to the Black Girls Lead program. I can't wait, Minda, to have you speak for the girls as well. As a matter of fact, while we're talking about it, the Black Girls Lead applications will be opening up very soon. So everyone who is in our audience is looking, you should really, make sure that you apply, or if there are young women in your life between the ages of 13, 17, make sure that they apply. It's a really great program. We have some great speakers. We bring in great conversations like this. And I really do see the benefit. I do see that we've been able to provide tools that have helped in some ways to help our girls know that it's okay to be confident in who they are, to not be so worried about outside forces that may try to stifle them, and really kind of tap in. So I'm really excited about this working with you, Minda. You're coming back. But I'm also excited about like looking at Mawiyah, and even for those of you tuned in to the BGR book club, every one of the girls here that interviews the authors are a BGR alum, and it's part of our continuation of mentorship, because we always tell them once they get into BGR, they can never get out. And it's true, as you can see. But no, I'm very excited about it. Let me just double check and see if there's any questions coming in. Let's see. There are some questions, but I don't see them. Candace said that creativity and innovation make her come alive. I guess that was another question that you had in the chat. And they're saying that there's some, I'm sorry, I'm just not seeing the chat for the people behind the scenes, so I don't see where the questions are.
Okay, I can see I'm here, Beverly, so I'll help chime in really quick. But again, you're stuck with me now, Beverly, so however I can be of service.
Yes.
I just want to just affirm, Mawiyah, thank you for how you're showing up. And I also want to just give you your flowers, Beverly, because I am not a Black Girls Rock alum, but I used to sit in my living room and watch Black Girls Rock on television, on the award show. And it was just to be able to see just us being highlighted and showcased and affirmed and loved on a public platform did everything for me when I was struggling at some of my hardest times of being a Black woman in the workplace. And so your impact has been felt in so many ways. And I just want to say thank you to you, because I can do the work that I do today because I was exposed to spaces like yours. And so, thank you so much. One of the questions here that we have for people to consider is, what do you think your talents are? Which I think is a really important question, because we have so many talents inside of us, and we may discount the talents that we have because maybe nobody has told us that we've done a good job. But thinking about the things that you're good at, what are those things? Because that can also help you figure out what you want to do with your career and those sorts of things. And for me, again, I knew that I loved working with people and I loved making people feel seen. I didn't know at 15 what that would look like later down the road, but I knew that I was good at that. And so I tended to gravitate toward jobs that would allow me to lean into that. But I'm curious for both of you, how did you figure out what your talents were?
For me, again, everything goes back to music, and not just music, but music and rhythm. I was tapped in, and I was tapped into my rhythm. And it's kind of one of the coolest things I love about myself, right? I think that my rhythm, my flow shows up in everything that I do. And so that having that kind of understanding of my communication with the universe through music and rhythm and soul, and it set the groundwork for me. I guess that's what I that's what I mean.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, first, I just want to say that this is actually really cool for you to be asking us these questions and encouraging this thought process, because it feels like what you're doing in the book, like coaching us through with these questions. But for me, my talents, how did I kind of lean into that and discover what that was? Well, this is no surprise, but takes me back to my first year participating in Black Girls Rock. At the time, it's called Black Girls Rock Queens Camp, but it's Black Girls Lead now. I only began writing poetry that year. I was 15 years old, and like Beverly said, I was very shy, very nervous, very timid, very quiet. So we were encouraged through the workshops and just the general love that we were shown there to speak up and to lean into our creativity. So I decided to write a poem, and then I realized that I loved poetry. I loved storytelling. The actual spoken word aspect of it wasn't something that I was jumping for joy at, but the aspect of being able to tell a story in that format was what I really loved, and it made me realize that I love storytelling in all formats. And I branched out to screenwriting and prose, and that's kind of where I realized that that's what my talent is. That's what I'm passionate about. So I mean, I'm not just saying it. Black Girls Rock. That's how I did it.
I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember your breakout moment. It was amazing. And everyone in the room was like in tears. Like, I still think about it. It's like,
Oh. Wow. Yeah, it's really special for me.
mm-hmm. Well, this has been, I think the woman who asked about whether this was for adult women, I would say yes. Minda's even coaching us, so it's really amazing. I believe that we are running out of time, so I just wanted to close this out with any parting words from either of you.
You know what? Again, thank you for having me. Thank you for the platform. Please go pick up You Are More Than Magic. Read it with the young girls in your life. Gift it to somebody. We all want to make sure that people feel seen and affirmed, and not everybody has access to it. So this book can serve in that way. And then lastly, we all have a voice. You just have to decide how you want to use it. And thank you, Mawiyah. It's been a pleasure being in conversation with you. And thank you, Beverly.
Thank you.
Uh,
Mawiyah?
yeah, thank you so much, Minda, for opening yourself up to this conversation, for writing this book, for giving us some of your tools and tips to find our voices as Black women in every space we move into, for offering us the conversation and the softness that we deserve, that we oftentimes need and don't know where to turn for. We need that softness, that care and concern, and you definitely showed that in your book with your writing and during this conversation with you that I'm so appreciative of. And that leads me to my appreciation for you, Beverly, at Black Girls Rock, and everything that you continuously do for young Black women and the platforms that you just keep creating, because your ambition is crazy. But it's so necessary and needed, and I appreciate it so much. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and participate in this. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. And again, thank you to our partners at Microsoft, our production team, our tech team, our ASL interpreters, and of course, you all. Next month, we will be featuring author Ebony Liddell and her book, Love Radio. For more information, visit us at blackgirlsrock.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter using Black Girls Rock, hashtag Black Girls Rock. Thank you so much, and we will see you next month.